Hey, hi everybody. It's the talk table time. You are live on the talk table. And um, we weren't on last week. Some of you were asking me, hey, where did Jerry go? Did you miss me? Maybe, maybe not. But we're back. And today we are talking about the law, specifically immigration. So now that a certain individual is on his way out, I guess more people try to come in. That's a whole long story because we'll talk about that later. But yeah, so all about what you need to know about immigration and the do's and don'ts. So to do that, since I'm not a lawyer, I'm going to invite a lawyer to help us out. And she's none other than Samantha Hamidan. So I'm going to bring her on now. Don't forget, you can ask your questions in the chat about immigration, whether you're trying to get here or you are here already, So put your questions in the chat and we try to answer them live. If not, we'll answer them later. Anyway, without further ado, here is our lawyer of tonight, Samantha Hamidan. Hi.
Hi, Jerry. Thanks so much for having me on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's an honor. Just wanted to have you here. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Right. So my name is Samantha. I'm born and raised New Yorker. I have been to school in New York. I went to school in DC for undergrad, and I came back up for law school. My parents are Haitian and Guyanese, so we're familiar with having some of the struggles of needing to naturalize and become citizens, in this country. But I was born and raised in New York, and we still have, a lot of family around the world.
Nice. So that's what made you want to to go into law, based on your background.
Right. I actually wasn't sure if I was going to do immigration or not, even up until the point of getting into law school. And I had decided to do an immigration clinic during my time in law school. And it was during that semester that Trump was elected as president. And so everything sort of took a turn from there.
Okay. I'm trying not to laugh, but it's kind of hard not.
It's okay. We can laugh so that we don't cry.
Yes, because as I recall, when he got elected, there was a mass exodus to Canada. Okay, so get me into Canada, please. That's kind of crazy. So now that he has to pack and stuff again, maybe there'll be a mass exodus back into the United States. Who knows? So that's why we're doing this. Can't make this stuff up. Okay, so today we're going to talk about that. What you need to know if you'd like to come back to sanity. Okay, I need to stop. Right. So what are some of the misconceptions about immigration that people have in their minds?
Sure. So one of the things that I would say, just right off the bat, when we're talking about immigration law, it's really important to keep in mind all of the different terms. So an immigrant refers to somebody who has a green card in the United States. So if you're in any other type of temporary status, it's actually referred to as being a non-immigrant. But general discourse in the media refers to everybody as an immigrant. But for purposes of classification, it's actually really important to be able to distinguish that. Once you become naturalized and you file for your citizenship, you are an American citizen. So you don't have to have those mention anything about immigration or say that you are an immigrant.
Yeah, a lot of people think that as long as you're here and you're living here illegally, you are an immigrant. But you're saying you're not really an immigrant unless you're here legally.
Unless you're here legally with a green card. If you're here, there's a lot of different types of temporary status, and there's a lot of work-related visas that
Mhm.
one can be on, as well. There's a lot of ones in the tech industry, for example. Many folks are familiar with the H-1B because that's one that we hear about a lot in the news. There's always sort of a lot of news surrounding the H-1B visa. But folks who are on the H-1B visa are known as non-immigrants as well until they are able to make that step towards immigration and apply for and receive the green card.
So, what can you do with an H-1 visa? I don't, what can you do with that?
Sure. So there's a lot of different types of work-related visa categories, like the H-1B. Many of these are employer-specific. So an employer must petition for you to be able to actually come and work for them, which has a lot of upsides. I mean, one of the things with an H-1B, for example, is that as the foreign national or the non-immigrant, right? You're not responsible for any of those fees that are associated with the cost, which can be, pretty hefty. Immigration fees are pretty hefty in this
Hmm.
country and set to increase. And so I want to do a small plug. If you're holding on to a naturalization application, if you can get it in before December 1st, because on December 1st, the rules for the naturalization interviews are going to change. So if you're holding on and you're, waiting for whatever it is, if there's something that believes not going to hurt your application, if you're able to get that naturalization, your application for citizenship in now, would be ideal. But regardless, back to the H-1B and the non-immigrant other visas, there are definitely upsides to them. But one of the downsides is that because it's employer specific, if the employer decides to terminate you or something happens with the employment, you have to find another employer who's willing to sponsor you, or you have to switch visa categories.
Okay, so just repeat that part with the deadline again about your application.
Sure. So folks who are applying for citizenship or naturalization in this country, you're always able to apply, but it's just some of the rules of application that may change. So at this point in time, if you apply today, right now, then come time for your naturalization interview, you would still be considered under the old system, which means that there's a total of 100 questions for naturalization
Mhm.
that the officer can ask you. You must get 6 of the 10 of them correct in order to pass the exam. Under the new format, which is going to apply to people who have submitted their applications on or after December 1st of this year. Under the new format, they're going to ask 20 questions,
Mm.
and you need to get the answer for 12 of them correct. And the questions may change a bit as well. So one of the things that we're seeing over the course of the past few weeks is that the Trump administration is really focusing on, again, trying to fulfill their mandate of Buy American, Hire American, or BAHA. Uh,
Mhm.
and they are trying to carry this through till the very, very, very
Wow.
end. And even as we speak, folks are really trying to push the last minute immigration policy through, and there's a lot of litigation that these things are tied up in. But until the last possible moment, the Trump administration is trying to make things as difficult as possible.
Wow, this is crazy. Guys, if you need help, go to her website uh, for help. Yeah, because I can't help you. So talk to her, go and try to get everything in before December 1st. He's try to take every state to court. So, but I guess he has enough lawyers to take care of immigration as well. So, so yeah, get your application in. Crazy. So, wow, I didn't know that. That's actually interesting. Now, so having said that, though, so you mentioned you should apply, but some people should not. I'm assuming apply because they have done some stuff that will like hurt them from being successful. So what we want to know is what are some of the things that can you're going to ask both to hurt and to help. But let's go with hurt first. Hurt your application being successful.
So when we're talking about applications for green cards versus applications for citizenship, and I'll split them up. So an application for a green card, there is a list of it's about 60 security questions that they ask on the form, and the goal is to say no to all of them if that's true, and if it's not true, then you're probably going to want to consult an immigration attorney and just make sure that everything you're presenting is true and accurate, right? So if, for example, some of the things that can hurt you or hinder you, depending on the types of crime or convictions that you have, many of them can be a bar to immigration. So, meaning that you would not be able to obtain a green card unless you are able to overcome some of those bars. Potentially, you might have to waive some of those bars. For citizenship, generally the process is a bit smoother. It's a much shorter application, but you still will have to ask those questions. And when you are intending to give the oath, uh, you basically have to confirm that you're really willing to represent the United States of America, and that you support the Constitution, and things of that nature. It's never a good idea to lie on any type of government
Mm-hmm.
application, because even if you don't list it, they they probably will be able to find out.
They know.
There's one question, on the green card application that asks, "Have you ever been arrested, cited, charged?" Right? And so a lot of time people will say no. They say, "Oh, maybe I was arrested, but I wasn't convicted." But the question says, if you were arrested,
Right.
you must say yes and disclose, the factors surrounding that. So if you were ever in handcuffs, you need to say yes to that question.
Yep. I'm guessing they already know. So, so don't lie. Um, okay. Wow. Interesting. Now, what about if you didn't pay your taxes? And what other question I wanted to ask? Well, let's just go with that. Let's suppose you didn't pay taxes.
Sure. So being in the U.S., working in the U.S., you're required to pay taxes, and you're required to file a tax return. Um, if you have not, I would advise that you speak with a tax advisor on those specific points. Um, in terms of citizenship, there is a question again that asks, "Have you ever failed to file taxes?" And while that's something that might not bar you from becoming an immigrant or holding a green card, it's something that could bar you from becoming a citizen.
Oh,
Yeah.
so well, I guess you fix that first before you apply, or you apply before. And
I would say fix before you apply, because if you say no on or yes, depending on the way the question is phrased on the application, at the time that you go for your interview, the officer has the right to question you. about those things. And when you're in the interview, you're under oath. So you need to tell the truth.
Right.
Right. And when you become an immigrant, or when you become a green card holder, you have to report worldwide income. So if you are, a citizen, I don't know, Jamaica, United Kingdom, something, and you're going through the green card process in the United States, once you become an immigrant or a green card holder, lawful permanent resident, you have to report worldwide income. And that's something that a lot of people take into consideration regarding their taxes, because, how much am I going to be taxed and by whom? It's a big question.
Wow. Well, last question on that. In terms of, okay, so you got your green card, but then you were deported, I guess, but you came back, and now you want to be like a citizen. Is that a no-no, or they're not going to, how does that work?
Well, there's a lot of factors.
Right, yeah.
A lot of factors to consider here. If you are a green card holder, you can still be deported, right? Especially if you are convicted of certain crimes. So unfortunately, holding the green card is not going to save you from deportation. That's why we do, advise that if you're able to, and if you want to become a citizen, and there's nothing stopping you, then it could be a good idea to go ahead and do that. We have had folks who had the green card and were unable to either extend it because they had gotten into situations, or they tried to extend it, it was denied, and to where the government put them into removal or deportation proceedings. And so it's definitely not ideal. It would take a lot of time, and probably a good bit of money to really be able to fight that, to maintain that lawful permanent resident or that green card status. If you are deported, for the majority of the time, you would not be able to come back unless you were granted something known as voluntary departure. If at your deportation or removal proceeding, you said, instead of being deported, I will voluntarily go back for a number of years. It's not available in every situation,
Right.
But if that is an option and you want to voluntarily go back, it would be better than to be deported. Because if you've been deported and you're found to be in the United States again within a certain period of time, that could constitute a felony. And so now not only you have a deportation order against you, but now you have a felony charge against you as well. And that is not an ideal situation to be in.
Wow. So again, I'm going to, her information is on there. If you have any desire, because you need help, this is where to go. We want to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about immigration and, when you're allowed to work, when you're not allowed to work, and all that stuff. All right. We'll be right back.
With RevCard, you get access to discounts and rewards from over 300,000 partner businesses worldwide, from hotels to restaurants to retail stores. Names like Hilton, Domino's, Famous Footwear, Subway, and more. Now, for the best part. Not only will you earn rewards and discounts on your own RevCard purchases, but you'll also earn every time someone in your network swipes. The more they swipe, the more you earn. So don't wait. Become a charter member, start building your network, and start earning.
All right, and we're back. We're here with Samantha Hamidan. She's a lawyer, and specifically in immigration law, and we are talking about immigration law right now. because you or maybe someone you know may need this advice, so we're doing it now, and I hope it helps you. What I'd like to know is, what are some of the criteria you should have when you're looking for a lawyer? Just in general.
For any lawyer or for immigration?
Any lawyer, and then you can also talk specifically about yourself.
Sure. So I think one of the most powerful tools that we have is information. And with access to the internet, we have a lot of access to information. And so if you're in a situation where you think that you might need an attorney, I would say to figure out as much about that situation as you possibly can. Not necessarily that you're going to be able to get your JD in Google by looking a couple of things up, but it's really good to be well informed, so that when you come, you're able to ask reasoned questions. If you're coming to a private firm, the majority of the time they may charge you a consultation fee and say, we can speak with you for a set amount of time. That means that you need to maximize your time and your money by having done a bit of your research beforehand, so that you know exactly what it is that you're coming to ask about.
I remember when I was getting my citizenship and everything done. I didn't have the best lawyers. Let's put that when I was getting mine done. So I went through probably 5 of them, and I had to get a lot of information on my own, right? Until I found the right one, because the first few that I got, they were just either in it just for the money, or they were so overwhelmed that they didn't have time for me. Like, who cares about Jerry? So I had to get all the, what's it called, the FOAI or something, the Freedom of Information thingy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I had to do all of that myself, right? But that's why I asked, because it's important to get the right lawyer, a good lawyer, because they're not all made equal. Right.
It's true. It's unfortunate, but it's true. The immigration system in our country truly really needs a lot of work. And you see the effects of that when you're getting, immigration attorneys who are burnt out, who are overworked, who don't, sort of have the time, because, they're dealing with a lot of things on the back end, right? But that being said, if you feel that your attorney is not really giving you the time and attention that you deserve, because you do deserve that time and you do deserve that attention, especially if you're paying for it, right?
Yeah.
You really deserve to have to be in good hands. And if you don't feel that you're in good hands, then you have to do what it is that you have to do. While I think it's really important to be able to look and research and make sure that you know as much as you can going into a situation, especially nowadays. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing a sort of DIY immigration approach or do it yourself, because there are so many different nuances and so many different policy changes that are going on. Like I mentioned before, we're seeing a lot of changes with the Trump administration. And it's not to necessarily say that all of these issues are going to magically go away when we have somebody else in office in January, right? There's a lot of issues that really need to be fully fleshed out. And because of that, you really are going to need someone who is well versed in all of those changes and all of those policy issues. Because, for example, if the Immigration Service decides they were going to put out a new form in 2 days, which they do, and if they say we're going to put a new form in 2 days, right? If you submit the old form, even the same day or the day after, they will return that case to you.
Wow.
They will not accept that new. They will not accept that new form, and then you've wasted about 3 weeks in the time it takes for them to send it back to you. Redo the new form if you send it to the wrong address, things like that. They're not going to help you out in any sort of way. Now that's the best case scenario for getting something wrong, is that you just messed up on the form or the address. If you're getting something wrong that's substantive on the case, then the worst case scenario is that it actually gets accepted and it goes through and it's processed and everything is fine. And then a year later, you're running into these issues, and now you have to combat and say that and fight against it and say, oh, I didn't mean to say that on the form, and now you're fighting a fraud, saying that this wasn't a fraudulent on my end. So really having a good representation and making sure that everything is accurate is really, really, really important.
I experienced that firsthand this week. So a month ago, I bought a new car. Fine, no big deal. You buy a new car. It was from Georgia, right? And the dealer over there, they had the car that I wanted in that particular dealership with all the bells and whistles that I wanted. Those who know me will know I'm weird. Anyway, so they used there's a form to fill out for the New York DMV, and they filled that out and they put it in the package and they gave it to me. I took it to the New York DMV. This is a month ago, and I'm waiting on my title and my license plate and all that. Couldn't find it. Anyway, had to go there a few times. It came back to me and they said the wrong form was filled out because, like you said, they updated the form. I didn't see any ads on TV saying we're about to update the form.
Oh no, they won't let you know. They won't advertise it. But it's on you to look at that information, right? And, it's a problem because a lot of the forms in immigration, we're like using forms that have a date of 2017 or 2018 on them, but it's the most recent form. So how is anyone to know? Unless you're going on the website and really double checking that. That's one of the good things that we're experiencing during the COVID-19 crisis is that Immigration Services is allowing for scanned signatures on forms now, where previously it needed to be a wet signature, which means you needed to print it, sign it, and that page with the ink, freshly dried, needs to be the one that shows to immigration. Unfortunately, the majority of filings to immigration are still paper, so it's a paper-based system. There are a few opportunities for an online-based filings, so like family-based green card cases, minor, non-immigrant or visitor extensions. A naturalization you can do online, but the vast majority of them still are paper-based, which means that you need the physical signature on it, which is obviously a major problem here in 2020 to have a paper-based system. And it's caused a lot of problems for immigration practitioners who are not able to physically get to the office during this time.
Which is actually my next question. How did the pandemic affect? I guess more a few months ago than now, but how are things now with respect to that?
Right. Well, you can see I'm in my home office, which is my bedroom. And so a lot of us are still working from home. New York is very stringent. And so there's certain requirements as to how many people can be in our office building, how many people can be on the floor. And so, within my firm, we have to really pay attention to who's going in, when, and coordinating that. Another thing that, has changed a lot this year, when the crisis really erupted in the States, in New York, in March, everything sort of happened really quickly.
Mhm.
Like it was like overnight,
Right.
we can't go to the office tomorrow. Take your stuff, pack it up, and head out. I was in an Uber going home with the printer from the office that day. Just like, you gotta go. You have to head. You have to head out, and we don't know when we'll be back. So that was a bit stressful, but nothing compared to my clients who are outside of the country, and we're not sure would they be able to come back, right? So folks
Wow.
have people have leases here, they have lives here, and if you happen to have been outside of the country, depending on what your non-immigrant status and what your visa category is, and depending on which country you're in, you may not be able to come back. So at this time, still currently, there are many COVID-related travel restrictions for various countries around the world. And so unless you are a US citizen, or you hold a green card, or you are closely related to spouse or child of someone who falls into those categories, if you are in any of the following countries, the UK, Ireland, the entirety of Europe and the Schengen zone, Iran, China, Brazil, you won't be able to come into the United States directly. So if you're, on an H-1B and you're in France, you will not be able to travel directly from France to the United States at this time, because those travel restrictions are still in effect.
Right.
And so what folks need to do is either travel to a third non-restricted country for 14 days and stay there and wait out the travel restriction and then come into the States, which obviously is expensive,
Mhm.
right? Because the third country can also have their own quarantine requirements. They can, force you to be up at a hotel. So, you're spending money on flights, hotel accommodations this entire time. So that's option one. Option two, if you don't fall into, the citizen or green card categories, and you're in one of those countries or zones that I listed previously, you may be eligible to apply for what's known as a national interest exception. And that's something that the Department of State only really rolled out around the summertime. So there are folks who have been outside for 8-9 months at this point who may not be able to come in. And essentially under option two, the exception, you have to prove to the State Department and to the government that you need to be back in the States because your presence is going to benefit the United States national interest in some way. That's a lofty argument to make. It's not impossible, but that's definitely something that may require the assistance of an attorney.
Wow. Yeah, I need to be in the United States because McDonald's is depending on me. Right. Good luck with that. So,
if you're the CEO of McDonald's, perhaps
maybe got burgers to sell. Anyway, so wow.
there is an argument to be made for those who can contribute to the U.S. infrastructure. If you're a medical worker, there's definitely an argument to be made.
Yeah, actually, all jokes aside, there were those who were in medical school, like in their final year, and they haven't really graduated yet. They were allowed to be doctors. Hey, you're a doctor. Go help that patient. Like, it's crazy. So
it is crazy. COVID has changed a lot of things. One of the responses to this from the current administration was that we need to buckle down and really focus on Americans, right? And so there are a lot of these restrictions, that have come about this year. And Jerry, there's been one new thing almost every month since quarantine and since COVID hit. So one of those big things is that it's just a lot more difficult to bring workers.
Wow. Yeah, there were talks about, well, there are jobs that Americans usually don't like to do and all that. So people who owned businesses in that field, they were trying to make the argument that really now more than ever, we need to bring in more help to do that. I don't know how successful they were, but that was their argument.
Well, there's been a series of lawsuits that have
Oh,
been launched. Some of them have been successful. Some of them, have been unsuccessful. Some of them are still ongoing. That's another reason, why I advise getting assistance from an immigration professional, because of this constant sort of back and forth, on which lawsuit is still pending. Does it affect my case or not? You hear a lot of things going on in the news, and honestly, some of the times that we find out about some of these changes is in the news. They happen almost instantaneously, or they'll say this is effective as of 9 a.m. tomorrow. Nobody has time to really
right.
sort of do anything about it. But you really want to pay attention to all of that, and pay attention to all of the news sources. And you also want to make sure that what they're saying or what we're talking about is actually applicable for your case.
Yeah, I know right now, people who are renting and they owe a lot of back rent. There was a hold on evictions, but that deadline may have passed already. So they're doing evictions now, or it's very near.
It depends on the state that you're in. I believe that in New York, Governor Cuomo just, I think last week or this week, just extended that guidance about evictions, which I think everybody really has been waiting for, because while it's gotten a little bit better in New York, it hasn't gotten much better in many parts of the country. And actually, we're seeing some of the highest numbers, record breaking, at this time. And so everyone, I think, is still sort of like, are we going to get another relief package? Are we going to get another check? And it seems that, Congress is still sort of working on that.
The reason why I brought that up was, and correct me if I'm wrong, I may be dead wrong, but I think that part of being here while you're working on your green card is that you have to have a place to live. So if you're being evicted because of whatever, virus and all that, maybe that could hurt you. So
it's definitely possible. When you are in the United States on any type of status, you have to be maintaining your status no matter what. And so if you're not in the States, you don't have to be necessarily as concerned with it, unless you are a green card holder. You're saying that you intend to live here permanently, but you're not in the States, right? And so we've had that problem with folks who got stuck outside, and they're saying, all right, I don't need to come back like right at this moment. But now you're running into the issue of maintaining your status, because as a lawful permanent resident or green card holder, you need to be in the United States at least half of the year. And so we don't advise that you would take any trips longer than 4 months or so at a time outside of the States. But there's folks who have been stuck out for 8, 9 months at this point. And so you need to make sure that you're maintaining that status so that you don't lose the green card that you worked so hard to get.
That is interesting. Yes, you do have to maintain that. Well, that's interesting. So that actually will do it for us today. it's been very informative. Yeah. Thought I knew everything about the law, being a non-law. Anyway, but yeah, we should actually have you back on the show.
I would love to come back.
Yeah, this actually was interesting. So we have been talking with Samantha, and she's a lawyer at that firm.
Rosenthal.
Thank you. And you can go to their website, because do not try to be your own lawyer. I know that there are some states that allow you to represent yourself. New York is not one of them, I believe. But either way, just don't do it.
Well, in the context of immigration, it is federal law. You can submit your own application, but if there's any sort of nuance, any sort of question that you have, if it's not 100% straightforward, I would say reach out to someone and make sure you just have the facts. Even if you're saying, listen, I want to do this on my own. You can reach out to an attorney and say, would you be able to look this over for me instead of charging the full fee or something like that. Some attorneys may be willing to do it, some may not. But it's always worth asking, rather than I'll do it myself and it'll be fine.
Taking a risk.
It's a risk. It's
like I said, the law changes every day almost. All right. So with that, we are going to say thank you, and we hope you learned something. Our viewers, we hope you learned something. We hope it was beneficial to you. You can check her out at that address, and stay tuned next time. Maybe we'll bring her back on again. Yes, I think we should.
I'll come back.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and see you next time on the Talk Table.